makes no sense. There's no logic that you can fit to that, and it feels like a blunder.
As pandemic restrictions ease, hiring a babysitter or having your home cleaned are now okay. So why can't you have family over? If the number of new COVID-19 cases in Ontario continues to go down, the province will move to stage 1 of its reopening plan on Tuesday, and that has some questioning why certain things are allowed while others aren't. Lisa Shing explains.
So Ontario's gearing up to reopen, and after seeing the list of what's open and closed, you might have some questions about what you can and can't do. If you want to have fun, you can go to the driving range, launch your boat at the marina, or check in on your horse, but you still don't have access to public skate parks or soccer fields.
We're still going to keep doing what we're doing, which is just staying within our sort of little family. And
it kind of almost gives you the impression that it might be for maybe not the elite, but for a specialized group.
I think safety is driving it, but the impact is that the types of activities that allow you to get outdoors but still be in physical distancing are often very private.
Some experts say the pandemic has highlighted a real inequality when it comes to accessing the outdoors.
In lower income neighborhoods, there's often much less green space than in higher income neighborhoods.
But there might be a reason why playgrounds and basketball courts are still closed for now. When kids have COVID-19, they generally don't show symptoms, and
They also get their hands everywhere. They touch everything.
you can't invite your family over, but a babysitter, housekeeper, or a cook is okay.
It makes no sense. There's no logic that you can fit to that, and it feels like a blunder. Most domestic workers, or at least a lot of them, are what are called peripatetic. That is to say, they go from place to place to place. So the person who cleans your house might actually be joining 8 or 10 different households together, and in a way that's actually incredibly risky.
It may be their only source of income, and they would like to go back out and make that income. When the people come by, and if my office, I'm usually not there, and they clean the office and leave.
Remember, the measures announced so far are all about the economy. We'll be hearing news about the social side of things next week.
That is something that we are studying very closely right now, the idea of bubbling, cohorting, increasing the numbers, because I know that people are wanting to spend more time with family and friends.
If you're going to go see your grandchildren, your kids, if you can be outside, stay outside.
The main message in all of this: do what makes you feel comfortable. Just because stores are open doesn't mean you have to go. The same goes for cities. The Premier says if a city doesn't feel ready to do everything listed in stage 1, it can take more time. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
The health minister says a technical glitch was the reason some new COVID-19 cases weren't reported in yesterday's update.
It has been rectified. We don't expect it's going to be happening again. It's just that for whatever reason, the number 87 cases from the City of Toronto weren't uploaded.
Yesterday, the province reported 258 new cases of COVID-19, but the actual number should have been 345. The minister says despite the omission, new cases of COVID-19 continue to tread downwards. Today, the province reported 341 new cases. So while some parents will be going back to work on Tuesday, the question remains, what is going to happen with their children? The Premier says answers are coming next week.
Minister Lecce is coming out with an announcement on Tuesday. So the first day back, Minister Lecce will have an announcement about childcare and about schools moving forward.
And we are learning tonight many of the events that are synonymous with summer in our city are being scrubbed because of the pandemic. The city moving today to cancel permits for dozens of events, including Salsa on St. Clair, the Honda Indy, Beaches Jazz Festival, and the Taste of the Danforth. Another thing that won't be happening, many of the summer camps parents and their children look forward to. Alicia Son has more.
Today, we are announcing with great regret that all planned summer camps and summer recreation programs will be canceled based on the advice of our public health professionals.
Tough news for parents and kids today.
We've all been living pretty closely together for the last million years, however long it's been.
And now to hear that summer camp as they know it is canceled for the foreseeable future.
My daughter was initially bummed and quite sad. And she'd say, I just hope camp happens. I just hope camp happens.
Lori Littman has 2 kids who look forward to sleepaway camp all year. And after months of isolating at home, any parent would too.
If there isn't camp and there aren't activities, I still have to work. What am I going to do?
But the city says that's just too risky.
I wouldn't even consider moving forward with this unless you have the provincial and municipal public health authorities green light to do so.
While some people in parent groups circulate petitions asking that camps be allowed to open because, quote, young children as well as teens are at a very low risk for serious effects of the disease. That's not enough for health officials to give the all clear.
Even if there's a few kids with this infection, if you put them all together in a confined area, it certainly could amplify this infection. And of course, they can bring it home to their families, or they could contribute to spread in the community.
So for now, anyone who's pre-registered for summer programs with the city will be refunded. Meanwhile,
city staff are working on a plan for modified recreation programs that could be offered for a smaller number of children starting as early as mid-July.
And parents are dealing with some disappointed kids.
Listen, I'm a working mom of 2. There's a lot of kids that grow up not ever going to camp, and they have an amazing summer because they're free and they're outside and they're playing and they're with their friends, and that's as good as it gets, and that's not a terrible thing.
We're going to have to get more creative, and we're going to have to open our minds in terms of what's possible and figure it out if for the greater good and for public health.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Long weekend is here, and so is our Nick Cernkovich filling in for Colette tonight. Hey, Nick.
Hey, how you doing, Dwight? Well, slightly bigger hair than what you saw last time. Although I did take the scissors to it myself the other day. So.
Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah. Well, I just did. You won't see the back. I just did this part here, and hopefully it works. Anyway, yeah, long weekend is coming up, and of course it wouldn't be a long weekend without rain. We are looking at rainfall actually tapering off tonight, but a big rainstorm headed our way for the latter part of the long weekend. We'll talk about that in just a bit here. First, let's talk about temperatures. We hit 19 degrees. Of course, it's been pretty cool recently. 19 is pretty much right on seasonal, and that's what we hit today. We'll be there again tomorrow. Right now, sitting at 14 degrees. Things have cooled down a little bit with the rain showers that we had. Now, some pretty good rounds of rain moving through this along a front that swept through the GTA. Basically done with it. Now, some areas across the region may see some light spotty showers for the next half hour or so, but generally speaking, we're basically done with this as we move into the overnight. The risk for a few fog patches tonight, and then tomorrow we've got some good sunshine in the forecast. However, Sunday into Monday, another system moves through, and this is going to bring with it a lot of rain. We're going to talk about that and the timing of it in just a little bit. For now, though, here's a look at your forecast heading through tonight. 8 degrees tomorrow, 19 and sunny. That is right on the seasonal mark. And then we get into the rain showers. Now, I will leave you with this, though. There's a silver lining to this, and it's that most of the rain comes through the overnight period. So I'll time it out for you coming up in just a bit.
Which is perfect. And we're just kidding. The hair looks fine, buddy. We'll check back with you in a little bit.
From this angle, yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
The weather update is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. Take advantage of special offers now. It's hard to stop a Trane.
1 in 3 workers in Ontario has been affected by the economic shutdown caused by COVID-19, according to the province's Financial Accountability Office. About 1.1 million workers in the province have lost their jobs, and another 1.1 million have seen their hours sharply reduced. But as Philip Lee Shannock reports, there are glimmers of hope in an otherwise gloomy economy.
It looks like business as usual at this Markham factory, but it's anything but. The company usually makes retail lighting and was hit hard by the pandemic closures.
And in the first few days, as you can well imagine, it was pretty dire. So we went through a round of layoffs. We started to, right-size the business effectively to what was happening.
Then, after Premier Doug Ford's call to action, his team started brainstorming.
And then we quickly realized there's a need, and we have a lot of capability. We had raw materials, we had the space, we had the ability to do it, and we decided to make a switch into face shields.
It started with a small order of 500. Then orders grew as hospitals and women's shelters needed more PPE. Now, with orders from the City of Toronto and Canadian Tire, they're making 20,000 a day.
Now that the scale and the scope has gone up, we've started to be able to hire back more of our own people.
He says they're on track to hire 25 more people by the end of June. What's happening here is a bright spot in an otherwise gloomy picture, and things are going to look a whole lot worse before they get better. Ontario lost almost 690,000 jobs last month, the largest drop on record, and that's pushed the unemployment rate to heights not seen since the early 90s. But today's report did foresee a sharp bounce back for jobs is possible if cases don't spike and require a second lockdown. And the savvy entrepreneur does see opportunities in the post-pandemic world.
I do see a lot of bigger brands that we're working with start to think about, okay, if these plexiglass shields are going to be in place forever, how do we design them in such a way that they're part of our brand, that they're on brand, they're part of our environment.
Businesses like this could help the province bounce back and protect the economy against a second wave of COVID-19. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Markham.
The federal government is extending and expanding the emergency wage subsidy program. Julie Van Dusen explains why the Liberals are trying to get more employers to sign on.
Justin Trudeau says the wage subsidy will be extended 3 more months to give businesses more time to figure out their next steps.
You now have some runway to catch your breath as you get restarted. So please, bring back your employees.
The wage subsidy is designed to keep employees attached to their workplace through this pandemic by the government paying part of their salaries.
Because wherever possible, we wanted to keep you connected to the job you love and to the workplace where you contribute every day.
The wage subsidy will also be extended to include more types of business, such as amateur sports, journalism, and driving schools. The other major benefit the government announced since the pandemic is CERB, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. It's had massive pickup, with nearly 8 million Canadians tapping into it, receiving $2,000 a month, which might become a problem, says this business owner.
My staff got a raise in taking that CERB, so it certainly has been challenging.
The finance minister says he's looking into that concern, but believes the wage subsidy is more attractive for most Canadians.
The straightforward answer is that the CERB is $500 a week, and the wage subsidy goes up to $847 a week, meaning that there is incentive for people to be on the wage subsidy.
The government says the economy in this pandemic is fluid, and that programs to help Canadians could keep changing, because no one knows how long people will need them. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada's housing market saw a dramatic plunge last month amid the uncertainty of the pandemic. Home sales fell by more than 56%, making it the worst April for the residential real estate market since 1984. Sellers appear to be riding out the free fall of the market. The average price of a home sold by a realtor last month was $488,000, down by 1.3% from the same time last year. The Canadian military is reporting that 5 of its members have tested positive for COVID-19, 4 in Quebec and 1 in Ontario. They are among the personnel who have been redeployed to 30 long-term care facilities in the 2 provinces. Here's what the Prime Minister had to say about that assignment.
There are always risks in what they do, and they go into that knowingly and willingly, and that is why we offer them our deepest gratitude every day. At the same time, we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect them, so we will look at the protocols in place and see if and how they can be strengthened, as well as ensuring that cases of COVID-19 don't spread throughout the Canadian Armed Forces and others who are serving their country.
It appears the tow truck turf war is continuing into this pandemic after a deadly shooting last night. Police were called to the scene near Kipling and Panorama Court north of Finch just after 7:30. They found a man in a tow truck dead from multiple gunshot wounds. He has since been identified as 23-year-old Hashim Kanani. Police say witnesses report seeing 3 men running away from the area on foot. Now, Police just released these photos of two suspects. They're both wanted for the first-degree murder and attempted murder. One of them has been identified as 17-year-old Narwas Nagara. Police had to get judicial authorization to identify him because he is under 18. The other suspect has not been identified. Police believe both suspects may be armed, violent, and dangerous. If you know them or see them, call 911. A community is in mourning after losing one of its beloved performers. Peter Ellie was a DJ in the gay village. He was found dead in the laundry room of his Midtown building early yesterday morning. Natalie Nanowski has more.
Placing flowers in front of a bar where Peter Ellie worked is a way for the community to mourn in a time of social distancing.
Gives you a bit of closure. You know, I'll never be able to hug him again or share a laugh or buy him a beer. So it's just kind of a way to process the grief.
Ellie was loved by many, known as DJ Blue Peter. He worked at some of the village's staples, like Woody's and Pegasus.
He knew everybody's favorite songs. He would always play them for me, it was George Michael. He would always play the songs just because I was there, and just a real sweetheart of a guy.
His death comes as a shock. Police were called to his Midtown high-rise early Thursday for a small fire. Some residents heard screams coming from the laundry room.
It was bad. I cannot describe it. It was like from a horror movie, those kind of screams.
Like fear?
Fear woke me up so bad, around 2 in the morning.
When authorities arrived, they found Ellie dead, with visible signs of trauma. Police are asking for help identifying this man. His face was captured by surveillance cameras in the building.
Please take time and look at those images. Contact police if anyone has further information with respect to this person, his identity.
As tributes pop up all over the village, his friends are grappling with what they say is a senseless death.
It's anger. It's anger because right now we're going through so much in this little community right here, and then to have someone, you know, just taken away from us like that, that's just insane.
There's still a lot of information and clues that police are combing through, and they say that they still have a couple of witnesses that they need to speak with. But they feel pretty confident, given the quality of the image, that they should have more about the suspect soon. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
3 people have been arrested after an alleged hit and run in the east end of the city that left a boy with life-threatening injuries. The 10-year-old and his mother and a man were all struck by a car in the Eglinton and Markham Road area Thursday morning. The boy suffered a head injury and remains in critical condition in hospital. His mother and the man suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Police say they found the vehicle involved in the collision in Whitby. A 20-year-old man, a 20-year-old woman, and a 17-year-old girl are now facing charges. Investigators are still looking for another man in connection with the incident. And police in York Region say they've seized more than $3 million in drugs and nearly $500,000 in cash after breaking up a major drug trafficking network.
So in total, we've arrested and charged 22 individuals facing a combined 93 criminal charges. And of note, 2 of the individuals were at large on bail already, facing very serious drug charges.
Project Cache was launched earlier this year. Police say it was a spin-off from an earlier investigation into the production and distribution of crystal meth. On Monday, officers executed 18 search warrants throughout the GTA and in Waterloo and Innisfil. They seized 10 kilograms of crystal meth, nearly 300 kilograms of pot, along with cocaine, and $450,000 in cash. Investigators believe money from an illegal marijuana grow-op tied to the ring was being used to fund the crystal meth operation. York Police worked with the OPP, Waterloo, and Toronto Police to break up the network. There was a standoff early today between homeless advocates and City of Toronto staff. It started when crews arrived to clear out a homeless encampment underneath the Gardiner. Lorena Redekop now with what happened.
An attempt to stop the clearing of a tent city under the Gardiner Expressway. Supporters arrived before 8 a.m. So did police and city workers.
I never stood in front of a bulldozer before. It's unconscionable that people who have no home would be evicted from the only shelter they have when that shelter is a tent.
Evidence of a 72-hour warning notice can be seen on one of the tents.
I come here this morning, there's a
front end loader right here. They're already ripping my tent apart. You know what I mean? Like, they said 72 hours from the time of posting, which is 1:45 p.m. I got here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Jason Phillips says he was out trying to figure out somewhere else to live. He says he has severe mental health problems and is aware of the dangers, the victim of a fire nearby.
Across the street, I had a camp, but it got set on fire, right? So like, I lost everything.
Police and supporters explained their positions.
They're just trying to clean up parts under the Gardner, right, just for safety purposes.
They aren't safe right now. COVID is in all of the shelters.
Yeah.
Toronto's fire chief says the tents are a safety risk.
There have been 55 encampment fires this year and 15 in the last 2 weeks.
And he wants to talk with the protesters.
Anyone who facilitates, suggests, or encourages anyone to remain in, let alone to move into an encampment, is simply placing lives at risk.
The city says since April 29th, it's moved 97 people from encampments to other housing, with another 58 moves planned for next week.
What we do ensure we are offering is that if there is a space being offered in a respite or a shelter, that those spaces are in programs that have already met the physical distancing guidelines.
Phillips says he was initially offered a shelter spot, but refused. Then later, another offer.
They say they're going to give me a hotel, right, temporarily. I'm all for it.
Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
After the break, a story you have to hear to believe. The lengths a Windsor hospital went to just to get enough PPE to protect frontline staff.
If this didn't feel like being drug dealers, I don't know what does.
Why it took a Wild West-style deal to get 500,000 N95 masks from China. That story next. During the pandemic, the global market for personal protective equipment has been described as the Wild West. And now we are hearing from one hospital CEO who says the $5 million deal he made went down like an illicit drug deal. Bill Molnar has the exclusive details.
If this didn't feel like being drug dealers, I don't know what does.
Hospital CEO David Mouche says trying to procure N95 masks over the last 3 months has been the most unbelievable experience of a lifetime. He and the procurement specialists they deal with spent countless hours at all hours of the day and night trying to make deals overseas.
We spent a considerable amount of time, days, weeks, months, actively procuring masks in the market. But unfortunately, that market, we were not alone. We were competing against pretty much all of North America, let alone the world.
Then through a connection in Windsor, Mouche found a man in China who could help. But the man needed $5 million up front before any supplier would take him seriously. Mouche went to the hospital board to request the money, knowing that they needed the masks in case there was a surge in COVID-19 patients.
It's we're either going to procure these masks for the benefit of our staff, or you're going to fire me, and we're going to lose $5 million, and so be it.
The board agreed, borrowed money from the bank, and wired it to the man in Shanghai. The man eventually traveled to Guangzhou to strike a deal with a company there. All the time, Mouche and his partner in procurement wondering if they would ever see a single mask.
Mainly because large organizations, so say health agencies in New York, we can't compete against their volumes. So that definitely did make it quite challenging for sure.
China also made it difficult by changing the rules around procurement of items. The hospital had to have MP Eric Kuzmerchik send a letter to the Chinese government to prove everything was legitimate. But then by chance, Mouche found out that the Toronto company they deal with to sterilize equipment, SteriPro, was also buying large quantities of masks from the same company in China Mouche was trying to get masks from. Mouche had his connection in China send the money to SteriPro, and then the Ontario firm was able to broker the deal that had eluded them for weeks. In the end, it actually saved them $200,000 on the deal. It took 2 days for the first shipment of 60,000 masks to get to Toronto via Kazakhstan and Iceland. A couple of days ago, it arrived at a warehouse in Chatham, where Dryden picked up 4,000 of them. The hospital now has enough masks to last for the rest of the year at the current rate of use. They will sell about 40% of the masks to the other 4 hospitals in the area.
It'll be something Caitlin and I will never forget. We never want to repeat.
Boucher says this experience underscores the need to have these masks produced here in Canada. He expects to have the balance of the masks delivered by the end of the month. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
While what the rest of the school year remains up in the air, what's happening with prom?
Prom is definitely a huge event that we all think about. You know, it's a time where we're finally together with our friends. It's the last time before we all go off to whichever paths we're going.
Now, some schools are holding virtual proms. Coming up after the break. For schools across Ontario, graduation and proms are, of course, on hold. Now, earlier this week, the Education Minister asked school boards to postpone ceremonies, but as Natalie Kalata tells us, some grade 12 students are finding ways to celebrate the end of their high school years.
They've traveled the world together, and now this Toronto couple is separated because of the pandemic. But it hasn't stopped their prom plans.
And you better say yes, because it would be appalling if you didn't go to prom.
Across Canada, teens are taking to social media to celebrate prom. They've already bought their gowns and tuxedos, planned their hair and makeup, and now they have somewhere to go, online. Prom 2020 is on, and high school students across Canada are all invited.
A lot of students are just happy that there's something to look forward to, especially in a time when there's not really a lot of good news coming out. A lot of things are just revolving around cancellations.
Azhar attends Woburn Collegiate in Scarborough. She's part of a group of 35 student leaders across the country refusing to cancel their big night. This grad committee meeting is over Zoom to find a solution.
Prom is definitely a huge event that we all think about. You know, it's a time where we're finally together with our friends. It's the last time before we all go off to whichever paths we're going in.
Partnering with the marketing company, the group is streaming a 1-hour virtual prom on May 22nd, complete with giveaways and live music from Juno Award-winning DJ duo Loud Luxury.
And throughout, we will have our representatives from each of our province give shout outs to their schools and just their province. And we're going to also have shout outs from various Canadian athletes, celebrities, and various politicians as well.
They're also giving back. For every student that uploads a TikTok video or Instagram video or joins the event, CIBC will make a donation to Kids Help Phone. It's not the prom they may have originally dreamt of, but there's still lots to celebrate. Natalie Kalata, CBC News, Toronto.
Normally, at this time of the year, parks would be alive with the sound of competition, thousands of children playing sports. As COVID-19 has sidelined all those leagues, it has also paralyzed the businesses that support them. Jamie Strachan now on exactly what's ahead.
So with the 1,000 kids that were coming through a week, we're now down to 0.
It's eerily quiet at this massive baseball training facility in Toronto, and owner Raf Chowdhury has plenty of time to talk to a reporter. Usually at this time of year, the building is alive with the sound of bats and balls. But Canada's billion-dollar world of kids' sports is stuck in time, waiting to be told when it's safe to play again.
Zoom lessons is good for the spirit and soul, but like you said, it doesn't really pay the rent. So getting back up and running is going to be critical to us in the next 2 months.
Even when games resume, the coronavirus will mean a raft of new safety rules. And the pandemic has left many families with less money to spend on sports.
There will be a portion of the baseball community who are going to be eliminated from the game just by default because they're not going to have the financial resources.
Hockey organizations are also feeling pressure. They're focused now on next season. Spring is when registration usually starts. Susan Irving is a hockey parent and president of Toronto's Leaside Hockey Association.
We also didn't think it was a right time to be taking money from families. Obviously, a lot of clubs need to do that just to keep the doors open and cash flow.
Some clubs have delayed registration and are offering payment plans. Many of Leaside's teams play in the Greater Toronto Hockey League. Canada's largest league says it's working to reduce the cost of playing Canada's favorite sport.
Now we have to do something about it, and there's a greater degree of motivation to make sure that we can make hockey available to all the families that are going to need it even more.
League leaders like Scott Oakman say their sports must be more affordable, or it may not matter when players are allowed to play again. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
A few businesses in the city's East End have come together to help out some furry friends and the workers that help them.
We are paying for lunches from a local restaurant that, like a lot of local businesses, is probably hurting a bit right now. And we're bringing lunch to the workers, the frontline workers of the Toronto Humane Society, every Friday for the next 8 weeks. And to support another local business, we've bought 800 pounds of pet food from the Bone House, which is another small business in the neighborhood. And we've delivered that here to the food bank, which I think is probably seeing a little bit more activity than normal during these hard times.
The construction company says they hope to support both small businesses and frontline workers through this initiative. It is working with Animal Liberation Kitchen to help deliver the weekly lunches to the Humane Society staff. The Society is seeing a lot of animals being fostered and adopted at this time. The Society says the pet food donations really help the animals and the families who take them in. And the fresh meals help keep the workers' spirits up and, of course, their tummies filled. Some of the best things of this bad times are the stories about us helping each other, Nick Sirkovich.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and you hear them all the time. It kind of lifts our spirits a little bit, at least. We talked about the sunshine earlier on. We're going to talk about the rainfall now headed for the latter part of the weekend. It wouldn't be a May 2-4 weekend if we didn't have at least a little bit of rain, although in this case, it's going to be a lot of rainfall. So let's start with the weather headlines. Of course, it feels like spring. Finally, at least today. Sunshine on the way for tomorrow, and then of course we've got that rainfall headed for the rest of the weekend. Let's time it out for you in just a second. Right now we're sitting at 14 degrees. This on the heels of the rain that we had in the city earlier on. Southwestern Ontario, specifically Windsor, sitting at 21 degrees. We didn't quite hit that today, but we hit 19, which is spot on the seasonal average. So front moves through. We've got rainfall now pushing off to the south, thunderstorms as well to the south. In behind it, still some lingering cloud cover. The risk for a little bit of fog through the overnight period tonight, so that'll carry into tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, watch for fog patches, some low cloud cover. That should burn off, though, through the mid-morning hours. And then into the afternoon, things are looking pretty good. Lots in the way of sunshine. But by Sunday morning, cloud cover starts to move in again. Another system pushes through. Look for showers Sunday afternoon. Heavier rainfall picking up later in the day on Sunday. And then through Monday, that's Sunday night through Monday is when the heaviest of the rain comes, tapering to showers again as we head through Monday morning into Monday afternoon. All that being said, it is going to be a lot of rain, albeit through the overnight period, but a lot of rain. This one by Monday morning up to about 30 millimeters in Toronto, but we could see 40 plus millimeters in areas, and that's going to be accompanied by some strong winds. Tomorrow, a light easterly breeze, but as we move through Sunday, wind gusts up to 40, 50 kilometers per hour. So pretty good spring storm headed our way. 19 degrees tomorrow, again with that sunshine. Overnight low tonight of 8 degrees. 16 on Sunday, windy and rainy, very rainy from Sunday through Monday. It kind of clears out late Monday and then looks good to kick off next week's work week.
Just when we want it, right?
Exactly.
Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
For nearly 2 months, the Canada-U.S. border has been shut down, open only for essential services. Holly Noble is one of the people who kept on trucking during COVID-19. We asked her to do a video diary of her day to show us what it's like to be a truck driver during a pandemic with restrictions at the border and major changes at service stops.
My name is Holly Noble. I'm 28 years old. I live in Windsor, Ontario, and I am an AZ truck driver. By the end of the day, I will have crossed the bridge 4 times, been into Michigan twice. It's about a 12-hour day, give or take. I got my Lysol wipes, which I'm having a really hard time finding in stores. That's been a little hard. So I am pulling up to U.S. Customs right now, and I've got my gloves. I'm gonna go through customs, take my stuff off, take out a wipe, wipe down my steering wheel again, because that's what makes me feel safe. Happy Friday. It's, what time is it? Almost 6 o'clock. I just crossed the Ambassador Bridge back into Windsor. Now I'm headed up to London, Ontario. I've been trying to avoid truck stops unless I have to refuel my truck, but sometimes I need to go in, but I'm prepared. I've got my mask on. I have my gloves right here beside me. I'm gonna put those on once I get what I need out of my wallet. And when I'm done, I'm gonna come out, take my things off before I touch anything in my truck, and I'm gonna sanitize my hands. And I'm gonna hit the road. I'll probably put on a a true crime podcast, maybe listen to some music for my 2-hour trip to London, and just enjoy this nice day. I'm in London. I'm at my second stop today. Now I'm headed back to Romulus, where I will be dropping my trailer in a dock. And then I get to bobtail home, so I'm pretty excited. Usually during the week, it's nice to have those service stations because you can go in there and you can lounge around and you could take a break there instead of sitting in your truck all day. It gets a little stuffy, it gets a little, I don't know, your back hurts a little bit after a while. I have to say it's really surreal driving down the highway and seeing signs saying prevent COVID-19, stay home. You know, it's also been really hard not being able to see my family. I'm very family oriented and I haven't seen them in months. You know, I'm alone a lot and I'm okay with that. But not being able to see the people I love has really taken a toll on my mental health. Overall, successful week. I was safe. I feel confident that I'm going to keep my family safe as well because of all the precautions that I've been taking. And I'm ready to go home, get some well-needed rest, and, you know, start back at it on Monday.
After the break, Eli Glasner joins us with his take on the latest comedy from the man who brought you the American version of The Office.
Yes. It's 10 a.m. Breakfast is over. No, it's not even real food.
New guy coming through.
Is upload worth a download? Eli gives us his take next. It's not going to be the best weekend weather-wise, so you might find yourself in front of the television. Eli Glasner joins us now with what is on his playlist. So, Eli, what is up with Upload, and why do you want to talk to us about it?
Well, I don't know about you, Dwight, but right now, I mean, look, I'm talking to you through Skype. I feel like I'm funneling my entire existence through just an endless parade of screens and conference calls, and that's kind of what Upload is about. It's kind of the next natural step. Now, this comes from a guy named Greg Daniels. He was one of the creators of The Office. He worked on Parks and Rec, so pretty good comedic pedigree. This takes place in the near future. It's on Amazon Prime. The year is 2033, and we start with a guy named Nathan. Now, Nathan is a computer coder. He's handsome. He knows it. Frankly, he's a bit of a jerk, but the jerk is involved in a self-driving car accident. Now, that's not supposed to happen, but he wakes up. He finds he's in the hospital and he's about to die. Now, in this show, in the near future, when you're going to die, you have two choices. You can either just die, or you can have your consciousness scanned and uploaded to this like digital paradise. It's basically a simulated version of heaven, except little catch here, it's of course run by a corporation. So here's this guy, Nathan. He's about to die. His girlfriend's hovering over him. He doesn't know what to do, but of course, in order to get into the pearly gates, first you need your account number and password. Let's take a look.
Someone's going to heaven?
Horizon Lakeview, please.
I need to start with the Horizon ID.
Yes, Ingrid Kannerman, capital P, Panorama, ampersand, 2002.
I really don't think we need Upload. I'm feeling pretty chill.
Vitals are still going down.
She's wrong.
Maybe don't try and tough this out, okay? Now, you could just old-fashioned die, or we could be together forever.
Now, you can see he's got a little reluctance there, and that's not just because he's going to be spending eternity, but Ingrid is going to be controlling everything because he's on her account, he's on her credit card, and so she's kind of calling the shots. Now, luckily, he does have an angel on his side. Angels are what they call the customer service reps. Her real name is Nora, and, well, here she is. Take a look.
Hello, Nathan. 10 fingers and toes?
Pretty seamless.
This is the first day of the rest of your afterlife.
You may find yourself living in a beautiful house. Cool.
Welcome to Lakeview. Uplifting views, timeless Americana.
Yes! It's 10 a.m. Breakfast is over. No! It's not even real food!
That's why the credit card is so important, because if you didn't upgrade to the premium package, the thing that you're eating could just, delete. And so money and financing and your payment plan is all very important. And so Nora and Nathan try to figure out how that works and why he crashed in the first place.
This is a really interesting concept, Eli. What did you think of it?
I liked it. Like, on the surface, it seems, lots of beautiful, pretty people and whatnot, and some good actors. But what I really liked about it, Dwight, is that beneath these shiny, happy people is a real subversive look at the power that tech companies have over all of us. I mean, in many ways, this is a show about class. This is a show about the digital haves and have-nots. There's someone like Ingrid. For her, life data has always been plentiful and easy to get. And then there's Nora, who is struggling to get her dad into digital heaven because he's dying of vape lung disease. And so it takes some nice little shots at the corporations. And this is a world with Google and AT&T and TNT and Oscar Mayer Intel and many more. I did want a little more of a satisfying resolution to the end of the first season. But I got to say, to get that critique inside a very bingeable comedy, I would recommend it.
All right, so we're speaking of online here. You have now found something inspiring made via Zoom, Eli?
Yeah, inspiration and art in Zoom. Yes, Dwight, it can be done. It's amazing. I know we're all sick at looking at these like Brady Bunch tic-tac-toe boards of faces, but what they did at the Juilliard School, musicians and dancers and actors all working together. It starts with John Baptiste. You see Laura Linney, you see Yo-Yo Ma, and hundreds of performers and students. What they're doing is interpreting the music of Bolero, but it's more than just playing the music. They are playing our hearts. They are acting out their frustrations, their joy, their angst, their anxiety. It is everything we're working through right now in the age of COVID, all in a beautiful beautiful 9-minute video put together by some amazing editors on Zoom. And so that is Bolero Juilliard. I've shared it on Twitter. If you need some inspiration during these rainy days, you watch that, and I think you'll be all right.
I am heading to your Twitter feed right now. Thank you, Eli.
You're welcome.
After the break, today's Frontline Hero. Stick around for that. We'll be right back. Sinead Grant is a registered nurse with Halton Healthcare, and her aunt, Lisa Washington, is brimming with pride. Washington says her niece is the first to graduate from university in their family and to use that education to help humanity. Here's more from her.
Hello, CBC. Thank you so much for honoring our frontline heroes. My name is Lisa Washington, and I'd like to tell you about one in particular hero that means the world to me. Her name is Sinead Grant, and she is my niece. She's a registered nurse who puts her life on the line each and every day. She is selfless, relentless, a woman of worth, and unbelievably fearless. I'd like to also thank all of the other heroes out there that are working tirelessly each and every day. Be safe, be well, give love, We are all in this together.
Thank you for sharing, Lisa, and thank you for everything you are doing, Shanae. If you would like to share a story about your frontline hero, send us a selfie-style video explaining why they are a hero to you. Tag us on Twitter or Instagram at CBC Toronto. Send us a message on Facebook or email us at torontotips@cbc.ca. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has boasted about making a great cheesecake, and the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, the cream cheese.
Then what I'm going to do, we'll make the base, the graham cracker base, delicious.
Very important. Premier Ford released a video of himself making a cherry cheesecake delight. He says he got the recipe from his mother years ago. The Premier disclosed his hidden talent during a news conference earlier this week when he also confessed to eating too many cheesecakes himself. And Premier, we are right there with you.
You know what I was saying, Dwight, is we've had a few stories with food, and it's round about dinner time. I'm getting pretty hungry.
Yeah, buddy, I might have some cheesecake tonight.
Yeah, I'm thinking so as well. You know, tomorrow's a great day to get outside. Of course, we have to respect social distancing, but tomorrow's a great day to get outside. Temperatures up to about 19, 20 degrees. That puts us right on the seasonal mark. However, there is rain on the way, as I said, coming up for the sort of middle to end of the long weekend. Here's a look at the next 24 hours, though. 14 degrees through the evening and then down to 8 degrees. Look for some fog patches tonight, up to 19 degrees as we head through tomorrow afternoon. And again, that is spot on seasonal. Now, rainfall starts in on Sunday, and then, of course, Sunday through Monday, we're looking at the potential for 40 plus millimeters of rain, possible local flooding there as well. So, as I said before, wouldn't be a May 2-4 long weekend if we didn't have a little bit of rain or a lot of rainfall. But
All the
what can I
flowers
say?
needed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
And that is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight at 11, right after the National. We will see you back here tomorrow. Actually, no, I won't see you here till Monday because it's Friday. Have a great night, everybody, and stay safe.